Before we call the meeting to order, I'd like to let you all know that executive sessions for professional, personal, and legal advice. That being said, it is 7:07, call the meeting to order. And Secretary, you raise the pledging.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. All right, will you please call the roll?
Diana Knapp, Dan Chubb,
Here.
Brian Davis,
Here.
Jen Goldhon here, Ruth Murphy here, Mary Kemper
Here.
Chad Mallory,
Here.
Matt Nelson,
Here.
Neil Tate,
Here.
Brooke Say here, Dr. Brad Starner,
Here.
Dr. Shanna Myers here, Justin Pierce.
Here.
Welcome to our meeting this evening.
All right, that brings us to hearing of scheduled additional individuals, we have none. Next on the agenda is public comment. If any public comment, it's the time to come up, you please just sign the board we have, your name and people your township and just like that. It is a public comment, move on, great, thank you. Special items, the first one off, letter A is the budget presentation. Yes, sir.
Get to do all the screen photos again, that would be lovely. Yeah. Right, yeah.
So, as we've started the journey back in January, with the budget discussions, we've reached a point where tonight is the final budget. And everything, with minor things that I'll share throughout this presentation has stayed pretty much steady. No changes for the most part, but like I said, I'll get into some of the things that minor changes that we had, but this is the time tonight we get to an agenda where you will be voting on what you feel is the best budget for the district. My hope is that I've provided enough information along the way that getting you the information you need to make the important decision that's in front of you. So with that, I'll go ahead and get started. So the budget changed since May, with our iPad MacBook lease amount. This needed to be increased based on inventory that was looked through more accurately, and in order to get everything that we needed in the investment for the 4 years. We needed to increase that amount for the MacBooks and iPad both. Majority of these had to deal with the MacBook parts that are in the schools. They were not part of the initial order, but Apple has allowed us to combine both into one payment. So this is the amount of the additional order that we had to place to get everything covered, so that everything is refreshed and on the same cycle. So from May till now, there was a $31,676 increase in that line. What has come to be actually yesterday, and that's why it's not updated here in this, because I've already shared this presentation, but this is more informative for you as a board. The 9th gen iPads that are being sent to the elementary school. Okay, so they were both from the middle school and the 9th graders from the high school. Okay, because they're the newest iPads we have. And this is something we've already shared with the board. The plan that was that they were going to the elementary school, because the elementary schools have the oldest iPads. Those covers, the iPad covers, once they've been collected, have been used and abused and are pretty in dire need of repair. Okay. With knowing that we are doing this for a 4-year commitment, we needed to look at what the best, how to keep that investment safe throughout the entire 4-year process. So in discussion with Dr. Cerner and our tech team, we've determined that the best thing to do is to get new cases for the 9th gens. Okay. Apple, the new covers for the lease that we're purchasing, the brand new ones, they're in our lease. They no longer, Apple does not go beyond the 10th and 11th generation iPads. These, like I said, are 9th gen. So what we need to do is we need to purchase these new covers for the 9th gens on our, we can't lump that into a lease. Okay. What we were able to do is work with a third-party company to get the same protection that we had, but we're getting brand new cases. And the good thing is at elementary, those iPads do not go home. Okay, so they'll be in school the entire time. So what we are planning to do is to utilize current year 24-25 funding to pay for the 600 iPad covers. Okay, it's the estimate that we were given was $54,000. Okay, so where that would come out of is the estimates that I've shared, that we were about 84,000 to the good, the 54,000. So that's going to put us more right and even, which doesn't affect 25-26 budget at all. But that way, then we are protecting our investment for the entire 4-year process, because some of the majority of the covers on the iPads that we collected that are going to the elementary school are pretty rough shape. So in order to ensure that those iPads last for the entire 4-year period, I think it's money very well spent. So those are the two changes that have happened since May. Okay. So any questions related to either the iPad lease increase based on the MacBook parts or the cover for the 9th gen?
Okay, this one jump on. 9th gens were in the high school.
High school.
Okay. They're the oldest ones we have.
They're the newest.
The newest ones we have. Okay, so they're the newest ones, and they're gonna last, we think, another 4 years.
Yeah.
They will last, okay, for support and everything like that. Outside of the. Okay.
The oldest generation that we have currently in our elementary schools, the newest generation is the one, and that's what we purchased. The next 40 years, but the oldest generation we have is all the way down to 5. Like, they can't go pay that anymore. So that's why, and again, the ninth generation. Like, it's not that, I want to be clear, it's not that our students didn't take care of their device, it's a device that's going home with them. And the cases, they did their job, but they've been going home for years with that, the same child. And we're gonna be putting them in the hands of our elementary students, and they need as a better piece, they're falling apart, and they did their job, it's just, we have a very expensive device, and we need to protect it for the next 4 years, and Apple, actually, when we looked into it, we looked at doing, if you recall, an entire refresh, but Apple actually told us not to do that. Because that wouldn't be cost effective, because the ninth generation is more than capable of handling the next 4 years for our elementary students. So it wasn't until we started getting the iPads back from our students that we saw a piece of work. And again, I don't know that they have used them by any means. It's just, for a couple of years, it did its purpose, and this baby got to be great. Anyone else have a question? I just have one more thing of that too, that Justin brought up too, as far as like the addition for the or the, laptop. So one thing we did is when we realized for laptop parts, we really took them and condensed them down, meaning that we had multiple laptop parts that we really whittled down. And we met with the teachers that were using them to understand why they were using them. We had Mr. Peel, of technology, meet with the teachers as well, to make sure that what they were using them for, the iPads weren't capable of doing, and they're not. So like our tech classes, there were some things that we're doing in our English classes that the iPads aren't able to do. So we were able to take those iPads, or I'm sorry, those laptops, but we significantly condensed the amount that we had, because we didn't need as many as we used to have, so that's where that additional charge is.
Okay. So the next slide here shows you a historical look at the Act 1 index compared to our actual tax increase. So this goes back to the implementation of Act 1 back in 2006. So I'm not going to read through every single one there, but you can see what the Act 1 index that we could go to compared to what our actual tax increase has been. So as you know, and what I've been sharing since January is currently the Act 1 index is 5.4%. So after tonight, I can fill in what the actual tax increase is once it's decided by you. You've seen this in the past, but I think it's just very informative so that we don't lose track of what a lot of our costs that we have zero control over is. This is our PSERS rate, and again, remember this is certified by PSERS, and we have zero choice related to what that rate is. So currently, the certified rate for 25-26, like I've already shared, is 34% flat. And then you can see the projections there for 29-30, it's supposed to go up to 36.49, but that all be determined upon how investments and things that they invest in do throughout those years. So, but that's just showing you the scale of where it's been and where it's headed. Okay, this charter and cyber school cost analysis. This is another. You've seen this multiple times throughout the 6 months, but this is just showing what we're looking at. There's a 8-year time period here, showing in 8 years we're just over $12 million in charter and cyber school costs. We'll see what happens with this year's state budget, if anything comes to be. Haven't really heard much related to this as to what potentially might happen. But there's obviously a lot of proposals, whether it's the flat regular ed rate. As you can imagine, if it would be a flat rate, we're already at close to just under $14,000 for regular ed this current year. So there could be significant savings if that goes, but that's been something that's been proposed for a number of years, but hasn't made it to the finish line yet. So So again, with the changes that we've already discussed, this is what the budget looks like. Our expenditures, the 38.7, our revenue, the 37.5. And that fund balance usage is just under 1.2 to give you the balanced budget. And this does include what the preliminary budget was passed at the 5.4%. Okay. This is the same information that you've seen from the preliminary budget of the summary of revenues. So our local revenues are just shy of 58.5%. The state revenues just over 40%, and then the federal revenue is right around that 1.1%. Okay. The only change related here is to the 700s, is where the iPad increase is. So that's the only dollar amount that's changed from the preliminary budget. But I mean, just to highlight, we're at about 65%, like we always are, with salary and benefits. So that's the guts of our majority of our expenditure budget. So nothing else has changed here. So this is what the summary and the same four options that I've presented. So option A, if you remember, since January has always been the Act 1 index, which is 5.4%. Option B, again, is 3.6%. Option C is the 1.8%. And option D is the 0% tax increase. And as you can see, it ranges from the Act 1 index of the just shy of 1.2 million deficit to the 3.6 is just shy of the 1.5 million deficit. 1.8 is right around $1.7 million deficit, and the 0% tax increase is just shy of a $2 million deficit. This slide has been shown every month, like I promised. This is showing you how much tax dollars are generated from each option. So the $797,361 is what was generated from the Act 1 index. And as you go down, you go to the left, you're losing $265,787 each option. Okay. So as you can see, the option C, then you'll be losing 531, and option D, you lose all the tax increase to 797. And then the corresponding amount of what a monthly tax increase on an average assessed property is for each one of those options. So this is looking at the fund balance summary of the different options. So as you can see here, option A, which is the Act 1 index, would be, you would have an estimated ending fund balance at the end of next school year of just over 5.4 million. Option B, you would be just over 5.1. Option C, you would be right around 4.9, and option D would be about 4.6. And then this is summarizing everything into one slide for the 3-year budget summary. So as you can see here, for the 20, so this is for 26, 27, 27, 28, 28, 29. You'd be looking at roughly having 3.1 million left in the fund balance at the end of 26, 27 at option A. And then you can work your way over to the left. You see it's 2.6 at option B, 2 million at option C, and 1.5 at option D. 2 years out, the 27-28 year, the estimate would be just shy of having enough fund balance of 386. Deficit that rolls to 1.2. Option C is 2 million, and option D is a deficit of 2.8. And then 3 years, and again, I've always said this every month, once you get to that 3rd year, there's so many unknowns that I don't really put too much emphasis or value in that, but. This is just for illustration purposes, you can see us 3 years out, here to depth of the 5.2. Then the 6.4, 7.5 million, and then 8.6, okay? Any questions related to this slide at all with the projection? Yeah. So, again, I know I said this at the preliminary budget, but I think it's very important just to emphasize. This budget as well, the final budget goes. As you can see, once we get the voting form, we have but. We'll start with option A, which again is the 5.4. Okay, each option has number 1 and number 2. Okay, you must vote the same way for both 1 and 2. Okay, you can't have 1 if you don't have 2. Okay, you need the millage rate associated with that option in order to get the revenue. And then we'll get guys, that's next step. Okay.
They can put it together though, right? Or something.
No, they need to be separate.
Separate.
Yep, so any questions related to that? So again, option A is the 5.4, option B is the 3.6, option C is 1.8. And option D is the. This will be clear, if option A passes, we don't go to option B. Or C or option. Once we have a vote that is passed on budget, it ends. Okay. With that, I'll open it up for any discussion or questions that you may have at this point.
What was the homestead, farmstead additional rebate this year?
$279.25.
That's an increase of what from next year?
$34.01.
Replace everybody else. I've got things that are moving to us, the public.
You wanna talk about it now, or when we do a discussion for different options? I'm not.
It doesn't matter, well, it could probably wait till.
It's up to you. I know we talked about it again, then. The options. Up to
We could
you.
probably wait that way. Yeah, I think that's what.
I have a question about the VOTEC school. I'd like to know, is there anything more going on with that? Do you know a name?
They're still looking at buying land. The plan is still to buy land and build. There hasn't, to my knowledge, there hasn't been any official movement at this point. I have not received any information that has, but the plan still exists that they are looking to buy land and start building.
That's actually one of the considerations for. For some of the budget things we need to consider with raising taxes. But I had a bunch of other things that I was going to go into with it. First, I wanted to start by saying that. We're underfunded by the state as it is after the 2023 Pennsylvania Commonwealth Court ruled that the state's school funding system was unconstitutional. We received $362,705 for the last budget in adequacy funding. We were ready to learn block grant. However, we don't know how much adequacy funding we will be getting, if any at all. In this budget, which the state hasn't passed it yet. Second, we are required to pay unfunded and underfunded mandates, such as PESERS, Public School Employees Retirement System. The rate for the 2025-26 school year, as Justin just said, is 34%, which is $4.7 million for our district. Half of which is reimbursed to the district, so our total out is $2.3 million. This mandated expense used to be completely funded by the state. Without, back in the 80s, they decided to kick it back to us, a portion of it. Next, we have cyber charter as an unfunded mandate. For the 25-26 school year, we are projected to spend $1.9 million with no reimbursement from the state. Last year, we received 5% reimbursement. Currently, there is legislation for an $8,000 per student flat rate reimbursement for cyber charter, which will underfund cyber charter, limiting parents' choices for education for their children. Because this is a highly partisan issue, we're just gonna have to wait and see what happens and how it shakes out. Special education is another underfunded. We are mandated to provide any and all services to students, no matter what their disability is. The district has to pay for evaluation and then provide those services to help the student. All students are worth what it takes to provide them a high quality education they deserve to help them be the best they can be. But this comes at a significant price tag with very little reimbursement. For example, the 2025-26 school year, we are projected to spend $4.6 million. With a reimbursement budgeted at $1.4 million. The approximate 30% reimbursement, leaving 70% to be paid by the local taxpayers. Transportation is another underfunded mandate, which we have to provide transportation to and from the school. With buses and vans. Currently, we are underfunded by a little more than $400,000. In addition to being underfunded and the unfunded mandates of PlanCon. This was formerly an option for school districts to receive some additional reimbursement for construction and other renovation projects. Unfortunately, this reimbursement from the state was frozen. If PlanCon had been reimbursing, we would have received some funds back from the state to the district, helping to ease the local tax burden here. To sum up, we are underfunded by 10% at the base level in educate. In addition to PESERS being underfunded by $2.3 million. Transportation, $400,000 underfunded. Cyber charter unfunded by $1.9 million. And special education underfunded by $3.2 million. You add all that up, this district alone is underfunded by our state through unfunded and underfunded mandates for a total of $7.8 million. So it's my hope that there is some significant funding that is provided to our district, and I know there are other districts in need as well. So we can do what we need to do for the betterment of our students, our staff, and our community. Gotcha. Thank you.
I do have something else. Okay, Social Security this year, we got an increase of 2.5%. Well, along with that 2.5%, they increased Medicare, $10 per month, which makes it $120 more. So that 2.5 increase got decreased by Medicare going up. Okay, we have a lot of elderly people and people on retirement in my district. That maybe, I understand all the things that Jen said. However, they can't afford all this. They could lose their house, cost of living with everything, the prices, everything's gone up. And now, you know, you're saying about the state not doing this, well, then it's time that the legislatures do something about it. We cannot keep taxing our people. They could lose their house. I know everybody in this room probably has enough to go up, but I know a lot of people that are struggling. So therefore, you know, when you're considering raising the taxes to these people, communities that you live in, and consider that.
Thank you. Anyone else any more comments or questions about the budget presentation before we move on? Diane, we still have you, right? Great. Thank you. All right. If there's no further, again, there'll be more discussion on with the different options, stuff like that. So if there's anything